Nietzsche's God is Dead prophecy. Why it's more relevant than ever in 2025. Imagine a world where the old rules don't work anymore. A world where people feel lost, chasing likes, trends, and fleeting highs, but still feel empty inside. That's the world Friedrich Nietzsche saw coming over 100 years ago when he wrote 3 shocking words. A God is dead. Those words weren't just meant to shake people up, they were a warning. And in 2025, that warning feels like it's coming true. Let's dive into why Nietzsche's bold idea is more alive than ever, why it matters to you, and how it might just change the way you see the world. What did Nietzsche mean by a God is dead? First, let's keep it simple. When Nietzsche said a God is dead, he wasn't just talking about religion. He meant that the big ideas, truth, morality, purpose, that held society together for centuries were crumbling. People used to look to churches, traditions, or even kings for answers about how to live. But Nietzsche saw those foundations cracking. Science, new ideas, and doubts were taking over. He believed we'd soon be left with a scary question. If there's no God, no ultimate rulebook, what gives life meaning? Think about it. In 2025, don't we feel that? We're free to believe anything, be anything. But so many of us are anxious, scrolling endlessly, wondering. Nietzsche wasn't celebrating this. He was sounding an alarm. Without something bigger to believe in, people might fall into despair or chase shallow distractions again. Imagine waking up tomorrow and everything you've ever believed in, your values, your purpose, your reason to keep going, just vanishes, poof, gone. Sounds crazy, right? But what if I told you a guy named Friedrich Nietzsche said this already happened? He said God is dead. And no, he wasn't just trying to be edgy. He was warning us about a crisis we're living through right now in 2025. A crisis of meaning. So what did he mean? And why does it matter to you? Stick with me because this is gonna blow your mind. In 1882, a German philosopher named Friedrich Nietzsche wrote something that would shake the world. God is dead. These words came from his book The Gay Science and later appeared in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. When Nietzsche said this, he wasn't just talking about religion in a simple way. He was pointing to a massive change in how people think, feel, and live. His idea wasn't just about whether God exists or not. It was about what happens to a society when the beliefs that held it together for centuries start to fade. In 2025, this idea feels more important than ever because we're living in a time when many of the old certainties, religion, morality, even truth itself, are being questioned or abandoned. Let's dive into what Nietzsche meant, why his prophecy matters today, and how it shapes the world we see around us. First, let's unpack what Nietzsche meant by God is dead. He wasn't saying that a divine being had literally died. Instead, he was describing a cultural shift. For hundreds of years, Christianity and its idea of God gave people a sense of purpose, a moral code, and a way to understand the world. It was like an anchor that kept society steady. People believed in heaven, hell, and a clear right and wrong. But by Nietzsche's time, things were changing. Science was explaining things that religion used to cover, like how the universe began or why people get sick. Philosophers were questioning old ideas. People were starting to rely more on reason than faith. Nietzsche saw this and said that the idea of God, the foundation of meaning for so many, was losing its power. The anchor was gone and society was drifting. Now, why did this matter to Nietzsche? He wasn't celebrating the death of God, even though some people think he was. He was worried. If God was no longer the center of people's lives, what would replace it? For centuries, religion told people how to live, what to value, and what to aim for. Without it, Nietzsche feared that people would feel lost, like they were floating in an empty universe with no direction. He called this feeling nihilism, the belief that nothing really mattered. Imagine waking up one day and realizing there's no bigger purpose, no ultimate truth, no clear path forward. That's the void Nietzsche was talking about. He didn't think everyone would just stop believing in God overnight. But he saw the slow unraveling of the idea. Fast forward to 2025, and Nietzsche's prophecy feels like it's playing out in ways he couldn't have imagined. Let's look at why. First, religion's influence has continued to decline in many parts of the world. In Europe and North America, fewer people go to church or say they believe in God than ever before. Surveys show that younger generations are especially likely to call themselves spiritual but not religious or just plain atheist. This doesn't mean everyone's an atheist, of course. Religion is still strong in many places, like parts of Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. But in the West, where Nietzsche was writing, the trend is clear. The old religious framework isn't what it used to be. But it's not just about religion fading. Nietzsche's bigger point was about what happens when any shared belief system collapses. In 2025, we're seeing that collapse in all sorts of ways. Take morality, for example. People used to agree on basic ideas of right and wrong, often rooted in religious teachings. Today, those agreements are fraying. Social media, for instance, shows us how divided we are. One person's hero is another person's villain. One group's truth is another's lie. Without a shared foundation, like the God Nietzsche talked about, it's hard to find common ground. Everyone's shouting their own version of what's right, and it feels like nobody's listening. Then there's the rise of technology. In Nietzsche's time, science was already challenging religious stories about the world. Today, technology is taking that challenge even further. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and biotechnology are changing what it means to be human. We can edit genes, talk to machines that sound like people, and live in digital worlds that feel as real as this one. These advances are incredible, but they also make us question old ideas about purpose and meaning. If machines can do what humans do, what's special about us? If we can design our own reality, what's true? Nietzsche's warning about nihilism, the fear that nothing matters, feels very real when you scroll through a feed of endless opinions, fake news, and AI-generated content. Another reason Nietzsche's idea hits home in 2025 is the mental health crisis. If you look at the numbers, anxiety and depression are skyrocketing, especially among young people. Why? There are lots of reasons: social pressure, economic stress, climate worries, but Nietzsche would probably point to something deep. When people don't have a bigger story to believe in, whether it's God or something else, life can feel pointless. He thought that without a guiding purpose, people would either fall into despair or cling to shallow distractions. Sound familiar? Today we're surrounded by distractions, binge-watching shows, chasing likes on social media, buying stuff we don't need. These things keep us busy, but they don't fill the void. Nietzsche saw this coming. Without something bigger to aim for, people get stuck in a cycle of chasing quick fixes. But Nietzsche wasn't all doom and gloom. He believed humans could overcome this crisis by creating their own meaning. He talked about the Übermensch, or Overman, a person who doesn't rely on old beliefs but instead builds their own values and purpose. This wasn't about being selfish or reckless. It was about taking responsibility for your own life. In 2025, we see glimpses of this. People are trying to find meaning in new ways, through activism, art, community, or personal growth. Movements for climate action, equality, or mental health awareness show that people still want to believe in something. The problem is, these new gods aren't as universal as the old ones. They're fragmented, not everyone buys into them. So while some people are creating their own meaning, others are still drifting, caught in the nihilism Nietzsche warned about. Let's talk about politics too, because it's another place where God is dead plays out. In the past, religion often shaped political ideas. Even secular governments leaned on moral codes tied to faith. Today, politics feels like a battleground of competing truths. Populism, nationalism, and culture wars are on the rise because people are desperate for something to believe in. When there's no shared God, no agreed-upon foundation, people turn to ideologies, leaders, or causes to fill the gap. But these new belief systems often clash, creating more division. Nietzsche would probably say this chaos is what happens when the old anchor is gone. We're all scrambling to find a new one. What about the global picture? Nietzsche was mostly thinking about Europe, but in 2025 his idea applies worldwide. Globalization and the internet have connected us, but they've also exposed how different our beliefs are. In some places, religion is still a powerful force, but it's often in conflict with modern ideas like science, democracy, individual rights. Meanwhile, in secular places, people are wrestling with the emptiness Nietzsche described. It's like the world is caught between two extremes, clinging to old gods or facing the void of no gods at all. Either way, the tension is real, and it's shaping everything from wars to migrations to online arguments. So why does all this make Nietzsche's prophecy more relevant than ever? Because we're living in the aftermath of what he predicted. The death of God didn't just happen once. It's an ongoing process. Every time we question an old truth, every time we replace a shared value with something new, we're grappling with the same problem Nietzsche saw. How do we live without a clear God? In 25, that question is everywhere. It's in the way we argue over truth, the way we chase meaning, the way we try to build a future while feeling uncertain about what it holds. Nietzsche didn't give easy answers, and that's part of why his idea sticks with us. He didn't say, here's the new God or follow this rule. He challenged us to face the void and create something better. In 2025, that challenge is ours. We can't go back to the old certainties. They're gone for too many of us. But we also can't just give up and say nothing matters. The world is messy, divided and uncertain, but it's also full of possibility. People are inventing new ways to connect, to create, to matter. Whether it's through technology, art, science, or community, we're trying to answer Nietzsche's question. What comes next? In the end, God is dead isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a mirror. It shows us where we've been, where we might go. In 2025, that mirror is clearer than ever. We're searching for meaning, wrestling with emptiness, and trying to build something new. Nietzsche would probably look at us and say, good, now keep going. The question is whether we can rise to the challenge or whether we'll get lost in the